Aloha, my name is Mark Titus. Joining me is Tate Frazier. Together,
I am Tate Frazier, perfect.
We are Titus and Tate. We are here to take Maui. We are coming to you live to tape from the Lahaina Civic Center for the Maui Jim Maui Invitational, where we have just witnessed the semifinals game. That's why I'm wearing my Gonzaga number 3 jersey. You're not allowed to call it the Adam Morrison jersey, Tate. It's technically Gonzaga number 3.
Yes, no one knew what his name was at the time. They're just like, boy, do I love Gonzaga number 3.
Before players could get paid off of their image and likeness, which we now know they can, or they
Thank you, California.
who really knows at this point anymore? But the reason I'm wearing this is because, as I said, is the semifinal round of the Maui Invitational, and some of you folks watching this that might remember. Some of you older folks like me, you might remember 2005 when Adam Morrison dropped 43 points on Michigan State.
So long ago, 2005.
So long ago.
So
you
long
gray
ago.
hairs like me. He did that in the semifinal round, Tate. And to bring the whole thing full circle, today, Anthony Edwards of Georgia.
I literally thought you were going to say, today Adam Morrison is here. And he was going to come out, and that was going to be our guest. But apparently that's not going to happen. But, of course, we had the moment with Georgia today, and you texted me and you said Anthony Edwards is having an Adam Morrison moment.
Exactly. This is the whole point. Anthony Edwards, granted, it was not in the semifinal round. It was technically in the losers bracket, the consolation bracket. I don't know what the term is. Back in my day, we just called it the losers bracket. I don't know if we have a different word for it here at the Maui Jim Maui Invitational.
I think it's the participants bracket.
Everyone
is
gets a
participating.
Ribbon. Yeah. Anthony Edwards channeled his inner Adam Morrison against Michigan State, no less, dropping 37 points on the Spartans. I think 39 of those were in the second half somehow. I don't know how the math worked out. The guy went absolutely nuts. We came into this tournament. He was billed as a potential #1 pick in the NBA draft. He did not play well in the first round game against Dayton. He did not play well in the first half against Michigan State. I was actually watching this at home because, or not at home. I mean, I wish I had a home on Maui. We were watching it in the hotel because it's the losers bracket. We decided as a tandem, we were like, we'll just sit by the pool, have a little Mai Tai and pina colada. We'll watch it.
Well, we heard Tom Izzo say yesterday that basically his team needed to pay penance, so we decided to join in that and say we will not watch this game in person. We will watch it at home. Yeah, and obviously not at home.
And
but,
so the point of bringing that up is that Bill Walton is on the call of this game, and he's talking about Anthony Edwards. They have Mike Schmitz on from ESPN to talk about the draft stock of Anthony Edwards, and Bill Walton's like, I don't see it. He's saying it. He's saying it in the Bill Walton way, but to paraphrase, he's like, I don't see it. I don't see it. And as soon as Bill Walton questions whether Anthony Edwards should really be a top 5 pick, the kid goes absolutely nuts.
Bill Walton is the best. That is exactly.
He goes absolutely nuts.
Well, that's because he loves the kid and he loves the game of basketball, and he knows that if you put the pressure on the guy and you say you should be the #1 pick, they're not going to deliver. But if you say guy can't be the #1 pick, no way he does it, answers the bell.
Georgia,
way to go, Anthony.
Georgia was down by 28 in the second half. They cut the lead to 2. It is pandemonium.
Will Tom Crean use this game as a way to recruit players in the future? Because this is sort of his thing. It's like, we almost beat Michigan State now. You remember that?
He's going to pull the tape. He's going to have a manager scrub the score off of the bottom of the tape, and he's going to just show that to recruits over and over and over. And you can be like, you could be Anthony Edwards. And they're like, Coach, didn't you lose that game? He's like, you're asking too many questions. We don't care about that.
We
care about
participated.
We participated.
We didn't lose. We participated.
We were in the hell of a game, though. We did not expect it to be a game that we would care about, but by the grace of Anthony Edwards, it made it an interesting game. Michigan State got the W. They entered this game. They were favored. They were they're still the #3 team in the country, even after losing to Virginia Tech. People were expecting them to bounce back, and they did. And then Georgia made it interesting at the end, and that's all I really have to say about that, Tate.
And it's one of those things, too, where the Maui magic is always in the air, right? When we talked about Tom Crean, Tom Izzo being on the floor in Maui, we got 1995 all coming back.
Were you aware that Tom Crean was an assistant for Tom Izzo at Michigan State?
I thought that Tom Izzo was an assistant for Tom Crean.
Right.
That's what I thought. I'm confused now.
Crean
Now
would
I'm not
have you
getting
believe
it.
that, yes.
So that was the moment, right? So we got the Maui moment in the building, and then we have the Adam Morrison, Anthony Edwards kind of thing going on. And then what we realized is that there are bigger and more important things going on in the world, which is one to say there are
pina coladas by the pool.
Yes, or the drunken monkeys, whatever you want to drink, whatever you want to do. But we did learn last year there were only 4 teams that were ever #1 in the country, right? We already have 4 teams that will be #1 by the time, and it's just November.
Is this true?
This is true. This is a fact. This is a stat.
Are you doing what I think you're doing?
What's that?
You want to talk about Duke losing?
No. I don't want to talk about Duke. I'm just saying.
Show,
lots
keep it in your pants.
Lots of #1 teams are losing.
Calm down.
One of them is on that billboard back there. His name is Mike Krzyzewski. No, I'm kidding. But It is interesting, right? Because everyone's trying to point to like the top teams. We got Kansas here, Michigan State,
Yep.
but a lot of the big dogs are falling, which makes me want to talk about a team that is considered a small-time program by, I would say, people that aren't as informed as maybe
By dumb people.
Yeah, by some people. And here we are. We got Anthony Grant. We got, the Dayton Flyers, and they came in and they rocked the place after Virginia Tech upset Michigan State yesterday.
I was watching a Maui Invitational preview show. I forget who was talking. Guy, very handsome fella, said that he believed coming into this tournament that Dayton is going to get the Maui bump. Is what he said.
Congratulations,
Is what
Dick
this man.
Vitale. I'm so proud of you for calling that.
This
Good
man
job.
said of all the
baby, come on, the
of all the
Flyers!
teams.
Ah!
To get the Maui bump, it's going to be the Dayton Flyers. I didn't say they would necessarily win it, Tate. I did not say they would win it. I said they're going to get the Maui bump. It is clear to me, barring a 30-point blowout of Kansas blowing out Dayton tomorrow.
Or bars in general.
Yes.
Something like that. Yes, it would be a great tournament for Dayton.
Either way, Dayton is going to be ranked in the next poll. Obi Toppin looks like the best player in the country. I can't tell if I'm just stuck on the island of Maui and we like to joke about the Maui bump. We like to joke about, we love the Maui Invitational obviously, but at the same time, it is kind of funny how if anything happens in Maui, it gets inflated to the most important thing in the world. And it's like whoever wins the Maui is just a shoo-in for a 1 seed because the media is too dumb to really pay attention to the rest of the season. Having said that, I feel like I'm falling into that trap myself because I genuinely believe Obi Toppin's the best player in the country.
And if you look at the Dayton team themselves, they just tend to love each other. It feels like every press conference that we've been to, Anthony Grant, when they get done with the questions, a little dap up. Obi Toppin's laughing at the questions that are getting asked, and they're all just kind of together in this own little world and universe that they're in, which is nice to see, especially in Maui, because again, the magic is in the air.
Who was with Obi Toppin at the press conference today? Do you remember who the teammate was? Was it Landers?
I think it was Landers. Yeah, it was Landers. Yep.
Yeah, so Landers is with him, and
also 2 Landers on the court today.
Yeah, there were 2
very
Landers.
interesting.
Very
Virginia Tech
confusing.
Landers and Landers.
So Landers is with him, and I think Landers gets asked about tomorrow. So before
is there anyone named Waters? I don't think so.
Before the BYU Kansas game was played, they were asked, what are your thoughts on the game coming up? Would you rather play Kansas? Would you rather play BYU? Your thoughts? And Landers says, we don't care. We're just going to take it one day. He gives all the right answer, right? He does the perfect media training. We don't care who we play. Either team is going to be a great challenge for us. We're just focused on ourselves, all that. Obi Toppin, as soon as he gets down, Obi Toppin reaches over and they dap each other up because they both had to look like.
I hope it's not Kansas.
Very well-rehearsed stuff. We've mentioned this before. Dayton is staying at our hotel, and we've been able to witness the camaraderie that these guys have, and it is very cool. It's a very real thing that not only with each other, but with the fans as well. A lot of Dayton fans here. We said this on the last show last night. The Dayton fans are by far the MVP of the fan bases. Kansas fans are going to be upset to hear me say that. A lot of Kansas fans here too, making a lot of noise. Calm down. But the Dayton fans,
blood noise.
Yeah,
not
blue blood.
Dayton lose your mind kind of noise.
Yeah.
And the main people losing their minds, Anthony Grant's family, his kids that are here.
Yes.
They are basically the stars of the show. Obi Toppin at one point in the game looks at the kids and is like, let's go. And they're telling Virginia Tech fans to sit down. You can't say anything back to the coach's kids. They're the most invested.
I've been 3 steps ahead of the media on Dayton the entire way, so I'm gonna get ahead of them on this as well. When Dayton
Take that, media.
I'm smarter than all of you. When
Can't stand people that talk into microphones.
I'm definitely not media.
Definitely not one of those people.
As Dayton progresses here, and we don't. The sky's the limit for this team. Who knows if they
Was
beat
that
Kansas
a flying
tomorrow?
joke?
Yeah, possibly.
Oh my goodness.
If they beat Kansas tomorrow, who knows? They might be a top 10 team, whatever. We're not really sure. We know they're going to make the NCAA tournament. I think that's a fair assessment. They're going to be a top seed in the NCAA tournament, a 5 seed, maybe better. Who knows? The point is, I'm calling my shot that the Grant kids, Anthony Grant's kids, will be prominently featured on whatever NCAA tournament game the Dayton Flyers play in. There will be a lot of shots to the crowd of his kids losing their minds. They are very, very entertaining. ESPN producers, if you're watching this, please put his kids on TV. They're so fun to watch. They are the cheerleaders for Dayton.
Yes. I'm pretty sure they just
amazing.
started swag surfing with the crowd today. So, I mean, you could just go ahead and, lock that
They're
in.
talking smack to the Virginia Tech fans.
And Anthony Grant basically said, we're having a great time, but when I see the American Express, Bill, I'm not going to have a good time. So that just goes to show that they're great kids. They're having a good time. Yep. So a lot of fun here. Is there anything else that we should really like?
I mean, Dayton beats Virginia Tech. Your thoughts on, you're an ACC guy, Virginia Tech, big upset over Michigan State. Do you feel like we had BD on the program last night?
I blame us. We
Is it
definitely
our fault
cursed
we kept him
BD.
here too late last night? He didn't get enough sleep.
I think I got in his head. I was like, you need 30 more minutes of fun. And they went back, got into 30. And they're like, why don't we just do another 30? How about another 30? And then, 5 hours later, you're losing by 20 points.
You are getting blown out today.
But at least by a really good team, a top 10 team. We
Virginia
believe.
Tech's going to be fine. They'll figure it out. What?
I got to ask you a question because this is something that Mark Titus loves. The Maui bump. So there's a lot of people that are saying, Dayton, they're going to get the Maui bump. Obi Toppin may get the Maui bump. Anthony Edwards could get the Maui bump. And the question is, who is going to get this bump?
What? How is that the question? The question, it's already been answered. It's Dayton.
Okay.
Dayton has already gotten the bump.
I feel like Anthony Edwards was getting the Twitter bump,
Listen,
but we don't believe
it's in the
those
losers
people.
bracket. Dayton has already gotten the bump. Dayton will continue to get the bump. I think Dayton, I don't know what the spread is on this game tomorrow, but it would not in any way, shape, or form surprise me if Dayton won. You throw out the records, Tate. Throw out the records. Throw out the names on the front of the jersey. This is the championship game of the Maui Invitational. Are we going to talk about Kansas and BYU, by the way? We should probably talk about that game. I really love this BYU team. We fell in love with Mark Pope. We didn't know a ton about him coming in.
Because I don't want to talk about losses for Mark Pope.
Yeah, Mark Pope, we're a big fan of his.
Not a loss of learning experience, I guess. That's what it was.
BYU was just outmatched. Kansas has better athletes. They're bigger. They're stronger. BYU, their only hope was to make threes. They did not make shots. That's a big thing. For me, as I watch basketball, I break down the film. I look for teams that make shots. Those are generally the best teams. BYU was not one of those teams tonight. They really shot themselves in the foot in that regard, and that proved to be the difference, Dave.
Yeah, and poor Mark Pope. I mean, after the game, he was basically like, "I should have done a better job." Jake did not have a great game. Of course, Jake Toulson, someone we saw yesterday, we were like, "This guy." He's an NBA player. He's got a chance to be an NBA player. Really, really talented guy. But Agbaji, basically, Bill Self convinced him to say, we're not even going to play offense tonight. We're just going to lock down Jake. And they did. They doubled him. They just made him have a tough night. He had this bounce pass where he just completely threw it out of bounds. And he was just trying to make a little play on the baseline. And you just saw his face. He felt very frustrated. They missed a lot of bunnies at the basket.
It would be very, very frustrating to be a team like BYU and play a team like Kansas because Kansas has the length. They're more athletic at every single position. And as soon as one guy gets tired on Kansas, and you're locked up in that individual matchup if you're one of the BYU players. As soon as one of the guys gets tired, he's getting subbed out. You're like, oh, thank God, he's out. But then the guy they're bringing in is also like 6'7" with a 6'10" wingspan that can, jump out of the gym.
And we were talking about Kansas's front line. I mean, McCormick and then DeSosa. Then, obviously we have Azubuike who's playing really well. Looks like he's kind of gotten in shape a little bit. Azubuike is rocking it out. You know what I mean? I like to see that. Perry Ellis was on the bench. I was like, if Perry Ellis going to get in the game, that'd be great. But the front line of Kansas is exactly what you want if you're Bill Self. And then if you got a guy like Dotson, who we talked about, you have a real legitimate point guard. And in college basketball, if you're a real point guard, you have a real chance to win. And that's why, Kansas in the championship.
Yeah, also want to point out, speaking of BYU in this Kansas game, Danny Ainge in the building tonight. Also, Dave Rose is in the building. Legendary BYU coach Dave Rose, who Mark Pope has taken over for. I just feel like there's something about that. Like maybe that's why I like Mark Pope so much because I feel almost bad for him. Like the pressure that must be on. To if you're Mark Pope, right? You take over at BYU. And what are they, 6 games into the season, 5 games into the season? You're on the bench. You're coaching at the Maui Invitational against Kansas, the top 5 team in the country. And you look over into the stands, you see the greatest coach in program history who you just took over for sitting there like crossing his arms like, don't screw this up, Mark. And then you see the greatest player in program history, Danny Ainge, also in the stands like, yeah, definitely do not screw this up, Mark. I don't know. That's a tough spot to be in. He's handling it well.
And the good news is that Mark Pope is like a fun and loving enough guy to say, whatever, we'll figure it out. Thanks for coming to the game, guys.
They don't have their best player. That's always that, too. Your only Childs is out, so.
We're sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Childs isn't here. Before we get to the tomorrow games and the championship game, obviously Kansas going against Dayton. When you think about Anthony Grant and Bill Self, obviously they have this relationship going back to USA basketball. We saw Bill Self get asked about it. Earlier tonight he said Anthony Grant's this perfect, great guy that everyone loves in the game of basketball. I happen to believe that, but if you're Anthony Grant, what do you think about Bill Self?
Oh, in what way?
No, I'm kidding. But anyways, just look at that matchup, those two coaches. I think, you get blue blood, top dog, Bill Self coach, and then Anthony Grant, a guy who's like, had these moments where at Alabama or wherever it may be, and now he's gone back to his alma mater and is getting back, on that high tide again. And it's going to be interesting because I feel like the blue bloods may be tapering off a little bit this
Anthony
year.
Grant is in a great position. I think Anthony Grant is
for the Red Bloods.
Anthony Grant's a great example of sometimes the things that happen to you in life that you think are bad are actually good. And getting fired from Alabama actually turned out to be a great blessing for this guy. He ends up at his alma mater. Dayton is a much better. Alabama fans aren't watching this, right?
No,
they're not
of course
watching
not.
this.
No,
Dayton is
they're watching the Battle for Atlantis wrap-up show.
They're watching the football. They're watching the football playoff rankings, yelling at Ohio State and LSU and Clemson.
They're watching the 2011 Alabama LSU
they're not
title
watching.
game.
I can say this.
Yeah, perfect.
Dayton's a better program than Alabama. Anthony Grant's better off at Dayton. It's his alma mater. He's got a good thing rolling here. We are very excited for this championship game. I really genuinely think that Dayton is good enough to win, not just on a fluke. They play this game 10 times. I see Dayton winning 4 or 5, honestly. Like it is a toss-up to me in that regard. And I think anything can happen, and it would not surprise me either way. If Kansas won by 20, I don't think I'd be shocked. If Dayton won by 20, I don't think I'd be shocked. And that makes for a fun game.
Yeah, exactly. What would be like the one thing tomorrow that you saw you'd be like, wow, that was really surprising? Would it be like Azubuike shutting down Toppin, or would it be something like that? Because I feel like Toppin is heads and shoulders above basically everyone else here so far.
I think Toppin, that is the game. I mean, we just saw Kansas's defense suffocate BYU. I think that is going to be the challenge facing Kansas. We heard from Bill Self in the post game talking about playing McCormick and Azubuike next to each other. You have a team like BYU, all 5 guys on the floor can step out and shoot threes. And the question was, Bill, did you think about changing up the lineup to not have 2 big guys out there who maybe can't step out and guard these guys? That's going to be another problem with Toppin. Like, who's going to guard Toppin on Kansas? Because if Azubuike isn't guarding Toppin, who is he guarding?
McCormick, right?
Yeah, if McCormick's not guarding Toppin, who is he guarding? So they're going to have to figure that out. But then the flip side of that, as Bill Self said tonight in response to the BYU thing, is like, yeah, we were worried about our guys stepping out to guard their bigs who can pick and pop. But their bigs had to guard us, and we destroyed them in the paint. 42-18 was the points in the paint differential there. So that's going to be a fascinating matchup. Toppin, though, can bang in the low block. That's the difference.
I think that will be the. I think Kansas got to be the physical team tonight, and I don't think that they are aware that Dayton, they're going to come out and hit them in the mouth early.
This is one thing I want to point out. I don't know if this is translated on TV, and part of the reason I love Dayton so much, I love this Dayton team, beyond all the things we've talked about already. They are every bit as big and strong and athletic as a power conference team.
5 team.
I think if you're like a casual fan, you look at a team like Dayton, you're like, okay, so they're mid-major, they're good.
You just think first 4. That's the problem with Dayton. Everyone thinks first 4.
And you assume that like every player on their team is maybe 2 inches shorter than than the Kansas counterpart, or like like it's cute how good they are for like a smaller team. They're not a smaller team. This is a very, very, very good basketball team. You throw Duke or North Carolina on the front of their jerseys, no one's even questioning if that's actually Duke or North Carolina. You're like, yeah, that looks like a Duke team to me. They're really, really good. Although I don't think Dayton would lose to Stephen F. Austin at home.
I don't think so either. That's very interesting. So I'm sorry, Coach K. All right, here we are. We are still in the line of Civic Center. We have not left yet, and luckily we've been joined by one of the greats, one of the Kansas greats, of course, Mr. Perry Ellis, 9th all-time Kansas scoring list. I'm looking over here to get confirmed. Yes, 9th all-time scoring list. Perry, great to have you here with myself and Mark Titus. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, no problem. Great to be here.
So you're on staff now at Kansas. This is something that has been well documented for people that are watching Kansas basketball. We're getting a lot of shots of you on the bench, a lot of shots of like you guys might remember Perry Ellis.
Yes.
Everyone's like, who does not remember this guy? You came here as a player in 2015 as a member of the Kansas basketball team. You guys won it. You were on the all-tournament team. Now you're back as not a player, and you have to sit on the bench and watch these games. What is that experience like? I'm sure part of you wants to get out here and play, and just what is the whole dynamic like to be back in Maui, but this time you can't get on the court basically because that's how it works.
Yeah, no, it's a whole different feel. I mean, first off, being injured, so watching it really makes you want to be out there, But just it's exciting, just watching the guys, man, and just looking back on memories, reminiscing on memories being here. But also, I get a chance to kind of explore a little bit more, walk around more, So it's been good.
What have you done here this time around in Maui that you couldn't do because you had curfew or you had to watch? I'm obviously you're watching film with the team now, but like what did you do?
Don't say anything that'll hurt you. Only say good things that you're doing.
Yeah,
only good things.
Is there anything you've done here?
Nothing crazy, but I mean I've been outside a lot more, walking around. Every morning, going out on the beach and stuff, and walking and going in the pool. Stuff you couldn't do if you playing because the sun will just drain you.
Yeah.
It's one of those things too where you look at this Kansas team, right? You got this great front line. You got Azubuike and you got David and some of these young and Sylvia coming off the bench, and obviously you're a big man in Kansas. There's a nice lineage. We were just talking about Danny Manning before.
Will Chamberlain.
Will Chamberlain, yeah. The 100 sign is up. Is there anything that you try to impart to those guys just on that front line to just say this is what it means to be a Kansas big man? And obviously there's some respect there because they know that you've been here and you've done that.
Right. I mean, that's all on coach. I can't really do much of that, you know, because
You're like, I'm just gonna hang out on the beach.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know. So I'm just kind of around, just helping out whenever I can with the coaches, and just kind of go from there.
Do you ever get frustrated watching them? Because like you were such a great player at Kansas, and not to say that the guys that are on the team now, obviously you have a great team now, but. You know, we can say it. They're not here. You're better than all of them. So do you ever get frustrated, like watching them? You're like, why don't you just dunk it like I would, or just like
Michael Jordan syndrome, where you can't really relate.
Yeah,
you know?
I would say it's more as like, you know, when you're in a coaching position, I kind of can get a feel why Coach Self would get mad at me when I was playing. You know, I mean, from certain things, you know, you kind of see it different, and that's been good for me to learn the game even more.
Well, speaking of that, how has your relationship with Coach Self changed now that you're working with him? And does he treat you differently than he did when you were playing with him? Just that whole dynamic.
A bit. I mean, he still jokes with me like he did, but I mean, I would say it's different in the aspect of like how I'm always around. I'm around him more, you know. So it's just, I was quiet in college, you know. So now I'm not afraid to go talk to him and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. It's one of those things, too, where I know you were in the TBT, and that's when the injury happened, and then you're from Kansas and went back to Lawrence. So when you kind of made that whole process come together, when you got back on campus, did something hit you where you're just like, yeah, I feel like this is where I want to be. I feel like I want to be around this program, or is it something that you already had in your mind? You're like, I want to go back and be with Kansas.
I didn't have it. Coach Self reached out to me when I was in the emergency room, kind of seeing what was going on with the knee, and you know, he just kind of had a plan together, like he wanted to bring me back. So I mean, it was an honor, and it's pretty cool that he wanted to do that.
Well, that's cool, Coach Self. How's the knee, by the way? Everything's going well?
Yeah, it's about almost 4 months.
Yeah, great.
Doing a lot more, doing well. I think by the beginning of the summer, I should be back playing and stuff.
You hear that, TBT? Watch out.
There we go. I'm fascinated by your high school career. I honestly don't know if people are aware of this, how much has been talked about, but I remember this because I found out about it, and I was like, this is mind-blowing, that you were, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you were the Kansas Player of the Year in the entire state for 4 straight years. You won 4 straight state titles, and you were the valedictorian of your high school. So my question is like, was there anything that you were bad at in high school? Was there anything, like, were you a problem kid? Like, was there any problem? Like, what was the one thing you did to rebel? Because that is like insane to think about. That you were the valedictorian, won 4 state titles and 4. And
also, has anyone fact checked this? Has anyone gone to your high school? Did you make up this high school? Is this like some old? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, it's real. I mean, but. Not really, man. I was real focused going in. I sat down with my high school coach and had my goals of what I wanted to do, and you know, and accomplish them. So I mean, it was
easy. To be a guy like this, you're just like, man, I set out and
It's like the opposite of Mission Impossible. Mission accomplished.
I was at home one day and I was like, you know what? I think I want to be an All-American. So I went out and I did it. It's just that easy. That's all you have to do.
Perry,
I don't know.
I will say this, Perry. I remember in 2015, in the height of your fame, when I would Google Perry Ellis, you would come up first.
Really?
Yes, because everyone was like, Perry Ellis, you're on the mind. Google had you up front. And I looked today, and you still came up for me. And I don't know if this is, because they're watching what I searched, but you still beat out the designer, Perry Ellis. So I just want to congratulate you on that, because you took the name from Perry Ellis.
I appreciate
Congratulations.
that.
Take that, Perry Ellis.
My last question is this. What is the hardest thing about being a Kansas basketball player? We were kind of talking about the difference between maybe the Dayton fan base and the Kansas fan base, where, both fans are showing up at this thing, but like Dayton, not that they're happy to be here, but like Dayton's like kind of the smaller school, all that kind of stuff. Whereas at Kansas, it's expected. Like it's almost like if you don't win by 30, they're kind of upset and trying to figure out what's wrong with the team, all that kind of stuff. What is that like with that pressure? Because I feel like it's a give and take, right? Like, because there's obviously a lot of good.
No, it took some getting used to, man. I mean, when I was playing, it took me to like the end of my freshman year, to where I was actually felt confident, felt good, But it takes a while. I mean, like you said, it's a winning program, a lot of fans behind it, so.
Coach Self seems like he's kind of got everything together with this team. He seems pretty, he's walking around with a little bit of a swagger. We'll say that. He's got a little bit of sauce going on with him. So is that something that you've enjoyed to see? Because, it seems like Coach Self is fully into what's going on. The team is bought in. We saw Agbaji today play just completely great defense on Jake Toulson. So what has it been like to be around Coach Self just in Maui and just see this whole experience, with him just kind of, we're going to say it. I mean, he's kind of running the show a little bit here. Yeah, he looks like the man.
I mean, yeah, he's real pleased, especially with tonight. Like you said, defensively, second half, that was big time, and it's just good to see him. He's happy and excited about the team, excited what they have to bring.
He's looking svelte, by the way, also.
It also helps that Michigan State was knocked out of this tournament before you guys even tipped off your first game. I guess that probably helped him relax a little bit. He's like, oh, yeah, the one team we were semi-worried about is out. And, this is nice. But no, Dayton is going to provide a pretty good challenge for Kansas. We're excited about that game. Anything else, Dayton?
No, I appreciate you coming on, Perry. It's great to see you, man, and we'll be pulling for you.
Yeah, absolutely.